Hello, and welcome to another episode of Shampoo and Booze. This is episode number 40 at shampooandbooze.com. Here we are in Ireland.
Yeah, so, it's been several weeks since we last kind of updated. That's because we've been traveling
Yes.
a lot. We were in San Francisco for work, and now we're in Dublin for work, although now work has ended, and now we're here for vacation.
2 weeks.
Yep.
In Airbnbs.
It's very good. So the plan is we're in Dublin for 2 weeks and 2 days.
In Ireland for 2 weeks and 2 days.
Sorry, in all of Ireland, and we're about to get a car, and we're just going to drive around, and this is the first time we're going to actually kind of play it by ear.
Right.
Where we're going to stay in an Airbnb, and then while we're staying there, rent the next one.
Right.
And just kind of, hope it works out.
Yeah.
Kind of a random thing.
Right.
Instead of what we normally have done in the past is we'll find a place we just want to go and then just book a place for a couple of weeks and just stay in one place.
Yeah.
So.
Now, we still could do that. We're off to our next place on Tuesday in a couple of days, but mostly we've been deciding Ireland's the type of place where you can travel around, every couple of days and see a lot. So,
and because of the kind of work we do, we've been lucky for the past 4, 5, 8 years now. We've been able to go to Europe every fall to do a week of work, and then we stay. And I remember 2 years ago we were in Amsterdam, where we stayed for 3 weeks.
Yep.
And I remember walking around the town, and we were just finishing renovating our farmhouse to on Airbnb. It was really new for us. We didn't know how it would work, and we were like, wouldn't it be awesome if we could come back to Europe when we have our Airbnb going, and it's being rented at home while we're staying here, and that rental pays for our trip. It was just like a dream.
It almost didn't seem real, that could happen.
And now it's really happening. So right now, our current Airbnb at home is being rented. People are staying there as we speak.
Yep.
And we're making its money on that, and that pays for our Airbnbs that we're renting here.
Right. I know. It's like trading.
Pretty cool.
It's pretty cool.
No, it's just good to acknowledge when things work out,
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, but let's talk about real quick. So we're staying in a place in Dublin.
Yes.
We're here for 3 nights.
Yeah.
And
it's an apartment.
Yep, it's an apartment. It's in a great location.
Yep.
Right in downtown. Good price. I think we're paying $130 a night.
Yeah. It's a 2-bedroom.
Yeah, 2-bedroom, bath.
It's got a laundry in the look, we were in a hotel for 8 nights for our job. Not complaining about that. But we hadn't done laundry, and we actually didn't realize that they had laundry there. So I was like, last night I did 2.5 loads of laundry.
Yeah.
Which is great.
And that's one reason why we love staying in someone's apartment rather than a hotel. Okay, so we're super grateful that we're here, and it's good. We like it. But we've always said, when you stay in someone else's Airbnb, it's a good education for if you're thinking of doing it your own, because you start to notice things that you wish they had.
Yeah.
So, a couple things, and we won't go into this too long, but when we were wanting to come here, I had to message him and be like, all right, how do I get into the place? Right. And it took 6 messages back and forth before I could finally get the right information about how I get in the apartment.
And how to get here.
Right, because he was a nice guy, but he would kind of send me partial messages, partial answers without, and it's strange, he's rented the place out many times. He wouldn't just give me a block, like a paragraph that said, this is all the information of how to find this place. I had to keep pulling bits and pieces from him, and it was very frustrating.
Quote unquote professional hosts, which is what we are like, why doesn't he just have a set answer for everybody that rents?
Right.
This obviously is a very popular apartment. It's in a great location. I'm sure, Dublin is a tourist
right, and
place.
it's in a great location, a good deal, and and part of it is not his fault. It's just in Ireland or in this town, many buildings don't have a number on them, so this is just called
this
blah blah apartments on this road. There's no actual number.
So we were just like looking on Google Maps, and I'm like, it's sending me to this little house, but it's like after, like you said, it took 5 messages back and forth for him to be like, oh yeah, it's totally confusing. Everybody gets lost. Right. We're like, why didn't you tell us?
People always go to the wrong building.
Yeah, and people always go to the building across the street, which is the same number as my apartment, so it gets confused. And you're like, if you knew that, why didn't you tell me?
So that's interesting. And then just when you get in the apartment, we meet him. He's a nice guy, and the story is he was a bachelor, and this was like his apartment, so
that he owns.
Right, so it feels like a bachelor bed, and then it's married, had a baby, then him and his wife and baby moved to another place, and so now he just rents out his bachelor pad, and that's what it feels like. It feels like a bachelor pad. It's clean and neat because he doesn't live here, but there's just like cheap IKEA art on the wall, just kind of random, IKEA stuff.
Well, in the kitchen, look, it's always about the kitchen. We like to rent Airbnbs because we like to have a kitchen. We like to cook for ourselves. It's cheaper, whatever. And, the pans are like all scratched up and falling apart. The knives are dull and stuff like that. You're just like, oh yeah.
Yeah. I mean, so anyway, but I guess a good thing for him though is that it's in a good location and it's relatively inexpensive for the size. So he knows he can rent it no matter what, as long as he's not stealing from people and people aren't giving him 1 stars. Like no one will care. So and it will still get booked. So.
Yeah. And I mean, he admitted, he's like, I'm not, a professional here. Like, his welcome booklet is literally just scraps of paper, like, with information scribbled on it.
Yeah.
Fine, as long as I have the information, but it's a very different experience.
And I think that it is interesting, the difference between people that kind of run their Airbnb like it's a business, and they're like, this is good, it's money.
Right.
This is part of my income.
Right.
And I don't know how much he needs it's money or not, but it definitely feels much more like haphazard, like, oh, I just got this extra place, and, he just randomly kind of is renting it.
And he's a little flustered. Yeah. Like, he seems a little bit flustered.
So if you're a host, that's what we would expect, is just like clear directions of how to get in. Yeah. And then just, like put some put your personality in a place, so it feels like, kind of homey.
Yeah. I mean, it's just people, I'm sure there are lots of people who have very different expectations than us. Where they're like, this is great, we love it, everything's perfect.
Yeah. Okay, so let's talk about our rental.
Yes.
So we have a friend who is taking care of our farmhouse while we're gone for these 3 weeks.
Yes.
He's done this now twice, or even
3 times
while we've been away. So we kind of have a system down. It's with him, where we print out a schedule. We give him everyone's name and their phone numbers.
Yep.
So I'm still communicating it with everyone and figuring out when they're going to, come.
Yeah.
And I let them know that we're not going to be there, but our friend will. And then I email that information to our friend, so he kind of has the info.
So he doesn't directly talk to people through Airbnb. That's we're still online all the time, so we're able to.
Yeah, I mean, I kind of wish that there was a way where Airbnb we could give, and I feel like they're either going to do this or I don't know how it's possible, but where we could give him access to our schedule, and people's names and info, but he wouldn't have any access to, money. And,
I think there is a way to do it.
He can't send messages. I mean,
Right. Basically, he just sees the calendar info.
Yeah, and info on each person coming.
Yeah.
But anyway, he's good. We even, we we've learned now to just empower him to solve any problem that's under $500. It's without contacting us.
Right.
I remember the first time he did this and we were away.
Yeah.
We would go back and forth if like the internet had gone out and he
Right.
didn't know who to call, and so you were good and you made a list of all the contacts of like people that fix things or the internet company.
Yeah.
And you actually gave him our info so he could act like he was us, so he
The
could just
account
fix
number,
the problem.
yeah, like call the internet people.
And that's great. So I love being here, is knowing that it's kind of good to go. I mean,
and again, he's had, this is the third time, so he knows how this house is set up. He knows who to call for any problems. He knows what issues might come up. He knows what to tell people. Like, it's great.
right,
It's like, I feel totally relaxed here.
right, and he actually cleans as well. So his job is the cleaning, and then he's just there as the contact person if there's a problem that he needs to fix.
He also feeds our cats.
Yep. And then in return, we give him 20. It's percent of our profits. It's while he's taking care of the place. So, you actually have a spreadsheet, so we try to be transparent.
I'm
with them.
keeping a spreadsheet now because, I want to show him like how, after taxes and stuff, like how he's getting paid. So
Right.
I'll probably print that out.
Yeah.
When we get home.
And I guess we did that because it just seemed easier and more fair than trying to work out some kind of hourly rate and then he'd tell us like how long he took to take care of it. I mean, we also want it to be worth his time,
Right.
Because if he feels like it's not worth his time, he'll just be like, "I don't want to do this."
Right.
And
we'd have to find somebody else. I don't know who.
Yeah.
But.
So I think we always feel, because that's the way we want to be when people hire us to do jobs. I want people not to. It's nickel and dime us. I just want to feel as if I'm getting paid well for it's my time.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I keep coming back. A couple weeks ago, we got our first booking on TripAdvisor.
That was a shock.
Which, we've been on TripAdvisor for a while now.
Well, we stopped for a while. We were on it for a long time, and we just were getting no bookings, and I was always having to sync the calendar that I was like, I'm turning this off.
Well, and we kept getting,
inquiries.
Maybe, 4 or 5 times a month we would get inquiries where someone would just send kind of like a text that didn't seem like they even wrote it. It was like generated by the actual website. Like, how much does it cost to stay? Is it available? And then I would write back, and then we would never hear from them.
I mean, and that's the thing. Like on Airbnb, if someone writes to you, most likely they're going to book. So we were, but it was like a month or so ago, 2 months ago, I was looking just online at other rentals in our area, and I was like, there's so many on TripAdvisor that have bookings that I'm like, I'm just gonna, it's free, you know, until someone books.
But I mean, if I go on TripAdvisor, our farmhouse is being listed along with hotels and stuff, and the question that we would get is, I feel like people were getting confused, like, they were thinking they were going to rent a room.
Oh, right, like
in
a B&B.
our house, as if it was a B&B, as if it was like a hotel.
Right.
And then I would tell people, no, it's, X amount of dollars per night, and you get the whole house. And people would then just stop talking because I guess that's not what they were interested in. But anyway, we finally got a couple.
Yeah.
They were like super fancy from DC, and they rented the whole house for a weekend.
I think it was last minute too.
Yep,
it was like a day
minute,
before.
And they stayed, and it was great. And I met them, and it was just fine.
Yeah, it was just like any other booking.
Yeah. So to me, it's like, I don't know if other people rent on TripAdvisor or what their experiences have been, but I feel like a site like TripAdvisor needs to do more education or better, craft their site so the expectation is clear as to what people are getting into.
Yeah.
I think if you put renting a whole home, it's renting a hotel room.
Yeah.
It's obvious why people get confused.
Yeah, they're like, it's just a room. Also, like, the website is really clunky. It reminds me of VRBO, where they're both kind of clunky. They're not as intuitive and, like, swift as Airbnb. So, like, it took us a few times to figure out, did we accept that, or was it instant booked? Like, remember we were like going back and forth, like, and then I didn't see the email where it was like, you know, it actually went through, even though we have the same email address for our business. I was just like, I can't figure this out.
But the nice thing about TripAdvisor and VRBO is that they let you charge taxes on the reservation, which, you know, it makes sense. I mean, we pay taxes to the county for...
And the state.
You know, and we pay a hotel tax, you know, which is fine. But we want then the ability to charge a tax to the
customer.
Renter. And customers, they do it when they pay for a hotel room.
Right.
And, you know, that's one flaw with Airbnb is that they just do not want to accept the fact that... you know, they're like a hotel, and so they do not want to...
Which is so hard because you're like, if I am taxed as a hotel, I should be able to add that charge.
You know, we've emailed back and forth, especially when we first started, and they would just be like, you know, just add it, you know, just add extra money to
your base rate.
But the funny thing is, you know, there are certain areas where the local government has demanded, like, they've told Airbnb, if you want to do business here, people have to get taxes. So I think that's now happening in LA. I know it happens in Amsterdam. And so I don't know if it happens
like Portland
in other places.
or something. I've seen other places where they have
it.
You
know, one thing we noticed right before we left, we were getting the farmhouse is ready. You know, it's an old house, and
I do know.
Yep. You know, built in the 1850s. Yep. But, you know, we tried to make it like a modern vintage, you know, kind of like a mix. And now that I'm thinking about it, it's kind of a tough balance trying to figure out what did you leave in the house. To remind people that it's authentically old. Versus putting in modern stuff just so it works. So, for instance, one thing is, you know, all the doors are, you know, old.
Old doors, antique doors.
Beautiful. But also we have some doorknobs that are also old, and I'm finding like that's one of those choices where the doorknobs should just probably be new. Because, you know, the old doorknobs, I mean, I'm not a fix-it person, but, you know, they just don't seem to
they're not
work
tight.
as well.
I mean, they're a little bit loose on the doors, even if you've tightened them, whatever. The set screw on one of the doorknobs is a little bit... what do you say? Like the threads are worn, so it doesn't stay tight all the time. We had a nice big, I think it was a 2-day fight we had over a doorknob.
Like, I went to open up the door and the doorknob just came out of my hand.
And I wasn't there to help fix it, so it was a problem.
And people were coming. But, you know, I'm now thinking that, you know, that's a good example of if something is always being turned and used, it should be a modern, you know, it can look old, but that should be a modern thing. Kind of like we also have like an old, you know, it's water tap. Like
it's a faucet. You never know what it's called. It's a faucet.
In its bathroom. And it looks gorgeous.
It's vintage. Yeah, it's this vintage, like, antique brass. Literally, it's brass that has, like, changed color over time.
I mean, it's gorgeous. But the problem is, because it's old, the handles are kind of wonky, and they kind of...
I always have to fix the handle.
They kind of, like, spin around.
Yeah, like, they don't stay in the right place. Like, they do if I fix it, but I'm like, I should not have to think about this at all. So finally, I broke down and found a kind of similar looking faucet on eBay for $100. So when we get home, I'm replacing that.
So I think that's our rule going. It's forward that if there's an object that people are touching and it's using, it's turning, you know, that has a lot of handling, those things need to be modern.
As opposed to like a light fixture that, you know, like we have an old like 1900s light fixture. It's been rewired.
Right.
But nobody's touching that. Like, it's just sitting there.
Right. Or, you know, it's more like if an architectural thing is fine because it's not really doing anything.
Right.
So, anyway, that's just something, I don't know if other people have dealt with that. The other thing that Ryan did was for our cleaner, we're kind of like evolving with our cleaner.
Yes.
You made a binder of photos for her.
Now, this was actually several people's idea on the blog through comments and through interviews that we've done where people said, look, I'm not around when my cleaner cleans, so I took photos of every room how I wanted it to look. Now, our cleaner already knows pretty much how the bedrooms and like, common areas look, but the kitchen was a problem because there's so much stuff in the kitchen. There's barbecue tools, there's utensils, there's baking stuff, there's, dishes. And the thing is, we don't have cabinets for a reason because we like having stuff open because people don't live there and whatever. So stuff was getting, in your opinion, I wasn't really seeing it because I'm in charge of a different area, so I couldn't see it really. But you were saying, look, the dishes are all out of order. They just look jumbled and weird. So we very, specifically took color photos. I have a color printer, of, this is how the dishes should be laid out. And actually our cleaner, was like psyched about it. She's like, thank you. I never know where stuff goes.
Because, it's not a surprise that if she doesn't see photos, you can just take all the plates and cups and bowls and just kind of throw them on the shelf. And, they can look kind of neat, but they're all kind of jumbled.
In the wrong places,
And same way with like pots and pans and things like that. Like, you can just kind of throw them in the shelf. Like, it's fine, but it doesn't look good.
It looks ugly.
And it looks confusing,
Well, and also, like, the idea is you want the house to look clean and neat. So when that stuff starts getting jumbled and misplaced, it gets crazy,
Right. It's kind of like here, the Airbnb we're in here. You go and you, like, open up the drawer to get a fork, and just, like, everything's in there, all jumbled up. There's, like, cooking spoons and, eating forks and, there's it's mashers, like it's all together instead of just, organized.
Right.
So, so that was
We
good.
like to be organized because we like people to know where stuff is, so.
So, one thing we do when we get home, it's winter time is coming, things are going to get slower. There will be a time when we're not going to be booked as much. We hope that doesn't happen right away, but when the winter comes, we're actually going to block off a week during it's winter time when people probably it wouldn't book anyway. Right. And we have like a list of tasks we have to do. Because it's now been almost 2 years now since this place has been in being rentable continuously. And we now have a list of like maintenance tasks.
It's not big stuff, but it's the list gets longer and longer.
Like there's some painting.
Yeah, paint touch-ups. Yeah.
There's some pieces of furniture that just need to get like kind of polished and kind of like updated. Just things in the yard that need to happen. Things like that.
Yeah.
Things that where it's going to take a week because the house is going to smell like paint. And,
you don't want to like paint the wall and then have people come the next day.
Right. I think that's the other thing too. We don't want the place to start to look kind of shabby. Yeah. And so it wouldn't take much to get it back to where it looked like when we first
it's such minor stuff, but it's stuff since we're in the house so much and we don't clean very much anymore, but when we did clean, you notice it and you're like, I gotta fix that thing.
I think those things kind of just start adding up, just the little dings and,
because there's a lot of use in the house, the house gets used a lot.
So, I'd love to know, I'm sure other people do that too, but, how often people do, like, it's maintenance once a year. Are you doing it as it's happening? That kind of thing. Right,
and there are several things that we do as it's happening. Like we said, we fix the doorknob and stuff like that. That's like immediate. But and also my question is for other people, like, do you block off time, or are you like, okay, no one's booked this week, I'm going to take a chance and do it, and if someone books, then I'll stop in the middle, which is probably dumb.
And then something else, right before we left, not only that door handle,
the doorknob,
but the television. We have, like a flat screen TV, and that's hooked up to Netflix. I don't know. I happened just to turn it on. I think I was going to play the radio off of the TV, and it was broken. Like the screen went crazy.
The thing that's crazy to me is we happened to be there like a few minutes, whatever, an hour early before the people were coming. And it was like 2 days before we left for Ireland. And you were like, well, I'm just going to flip the TV on while we're here, you know, watch Netflix or something. And thank God you did, because the TV was completely messed up. And at first we were like, oh, maybe someone unplugged something or whatever. No.
It just where the screen was crazy, just like lines.
Now this TV, I will say this, we bought this TV used because we got a good deal on Craigslist on this like gorgeous like Sony Bravia, but I think it was like 5 years old.
I mean, I think that's the other thing about like, you know, we're very frugal people. We like a deal, but it's kind of like sometimes you have to think about when it's smart to buy it used to save its money and when it's not. And now that I'm thinking about it, buying a used TV might not have been the best idea.
Like buying a used TV for yourself, maybe that's okay. Right. And the great thing about that deal on Craigslist was it came with an Apple TV and a sound system.
And so it was from, how old was it, 2009?
It was like 2009 TV. And look, I mean, the other thing too...
At the time, it was probably one of the best TVs that you could buy. It was a Sony
Bravia.
It was a really fancy TV, but the thing is, by the time we bought it, it was already 5 years old.
The technology on flat screens has changed so much that, like, okay, so this Sony Bravia, we were like, okay, we need to pull this thing out, put it in the car, get it out of here. It took 2 of us to lift it. The thing weighed a ton. The new one that we bought, Jay just like put it up by himself because it's thin, it's light. It was like,
I mean, plus we were thinking, well, because we don't buy TVs, you know, so I didn't really know what its market was. We were thinking about buying a used TV on Craigslist. You know, we had a couple days to actually buy a new TV, and then I realized I could go to Walmart and buy just a really nice Samsung.
No, it's a Sony Bravia.
We could go to Walmart and buy another Sony TV, a 50-inch, for $400 out the door.
Brand new.
And like as Ryan said, they're super light now. I could carry the thing.
You carried it across the department store.
I mean, it's just incredible, you know. And we set it up, and it was plugged in within 10.
Less than that.
A minute.
It was like we put it up on the thing, we plugged it in, the Apple TV, and I was like, okay, we're done. Like,
so
but honestly, in a business like this where you're like, we don't have time, like we did kind of shop for a deal, but we were like, we're not driving to DC to get a better deal. We have to go to Walmart in our town. They have a Sony Bravia.
Right. And
let's just do it. We'll put it on the credit card.
And then people came and stayed for 2 nights, and basically that 2 nights paid for the TV. So it was it's one of those things where you just have to throw cash at it, you know.
And the problem solved. And the thing was, you know, maybe if we had more time or whatever, like, let's just do it and be done and not have to think about it.
So let's talk about our numbers real quick on this farmhouse we have.
Yes.
So we like to do this to kind of ground the conversation in numbers. So those of you who are either already renting or maybe if you're thinking about it, these are the numbers, you know, that see if it makes sense to you.
Right.
You know.
So basically, out of 365 nights of the year...
In 2016.
Out of the whole year, our goal was to book 200 nights. And we booked 208 nights.
Yeah, and the year is not over yet. So, you know, now I'm thinking, let's do 220 nights.
That'd be awesome.
We still have... is November and December.
Yes.
Because October, we booked 26 nights in October.
I mean, that's as good as July.
Yeah.
Which is amazing.
It's incredible. I mean, so we're here in Dublin. Yeah. So we're 6 hours ahead.
Right.
I woke up this morning at 5:30 and I saw that we had 2 instant books.
This week?
And they were... one's for today.
Yes.
Like a last minute it's booking, and then the ones, so I got up and I got on chat and I talked to our friend back home, and it's 1 a.m. there.
So he's still awake.
So I got him right before he went to sleep and said, man, someone's checking out today and you got to do a quick flip. And I was a little worried because I didn't know if, you know, he has...
plans or he's doing something.
But he's going to do it, so
yeah.
So it's all good. So really, I mean, this month is very booked for us, which is great.
I want every month like this.
Yeah. So that's a good thing. So November and December, we do expect it to start slowing down, but there are like the holidays, Christmas, Thanksgiving.
The great thing was we last year had people stay, I think, for Thanksgiving and Christmas.
Right. And where we are, it doesn't really start to get like deadly cold till January.
Yeah.
So November, December is still cold.
It's pretty
and cool.
mild.
So people into hiking, it's still a thing.
Yeah.
So we hope that we can, book some more.
Yeah. So October's been a surprise.
Yeah.
Hopefully November and December will be too.
Yep.
So since the last time we spoke, we've booked 15 nights.
Yep. So then in the past 3 weeks or so, we've booked, it's 15, it's more nights.
Which is awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what we want.
It's just great. Okay, so just a quick update on that. It's River House, our second place that we're trying to get it rented. We're doing renovations. So we showed you
starting renovations.
We showed you guys. We did that driveway.
That was a big job.
So that was a big job. We already did the roof. Yep. And we bricked up the chimney.
Yeah. So and we gutted the inside. Basically,
right.
We ripped everything out.
So we've been debating on how much renovation we're going to do, and I think we've decided we're going for it. We're right now going to actually add on to the house. So we've gotten permission to put on a new, like a sunroom.
Yeah, so we got permission to,
from the county.
I did drawings, I got a permit. It was not fun, but I've done the process before, and I know the people in the office, so I was able to do it with little to no headache.
Make friends with your building inspector and health department.
Absolutely. So we got permission to do a bump out, basically.
Right. A 1-floor bump out.
But we were standing there when we were doing the bump out measurements, and Jay, of course, ambitious Jay, was like, why don't we bump out both floors?
Yeah, like why not? If we're going to come out at 1 floor, why not just go up a 2nd floor?
Right.
So when we get home, and we've already talked to our contractor, he says that it's physically possible.
Right.
We have to talk to the building inspector and see if,
if they'll okay that.
If that wouldn't be a big deal.
I'm hoping since we got permission for the downstairs, if I'm like, what if we just went up? Then he would be like,
yeah.
As long as it's done right,
And see, now it's about money, like all these big dreams we have cost, it's money. So, we're hiring 3 guys who we've worked with before, and we love them.
Yeah.
They're all around handymen, so they know how to do a lot of stuff. But they're professional carpenters. They do beautiful work, and they're contractors too. So they understand, like, they can do the whole job themselves. Right. We pay 2 guys $25 an hour. We pay the lead guy $30 an hour. So 35 hours a week, that's $2,800.
Right.
In a month, that's $11,000. I mean, this is just some serious money. So one of the things we're actually going to be doing on this trip is actually doing a breakdown of
what
everything needs to get done. And what we always try and do is try and do it in steps. Try and let's get this done. And then let's get this done, The good news is we've saved it's money over the year, so we have kind of a chunk of cash that is ready to be spent. But it will be stressful. I mean,
it's stressful spending that much money because the timeline always changes, and you're always adding things, and you want to do something different and better. And
the question is, number one, is it worth it to do all this extra work?
Right.
I mean, why? I mean, why not just go in and just throw it on the floor and just put in a new bathroom and kitchen and just kind of update it? It would definitely be cheaper. But here's our thinking. Number one is this is a long-term investment for us. So this isn't something we're just going to do for a couple of years and be done. This is 20 years or whatever. So, and this is the time to do it. If we're going to do any kind of renovation, this is the time, because
we're not going to do it again.
Because once you get it all fixed up, we're not going to start tearing down walls again. So it's kind of like do or die. So we're actually improving the value of the house because we could conceivably be adding another 1,000 square feet to this house. That's a big deal.
Yeah.
With an extra room.
It's like doubling the space of the house.
So the value of the house will go up at the end of the day. But the other thing is we can accept more people to stay at the house.
Right.
So it becomes more of like a family friendly place.
Right.
We can charge more.
Yep.
So we'll just be making more for every time we book.
Yep.
So for us, it kind of makes sense to do this upfront improvement.
Right.
And then we'll make all that its money back.
Right.
On the tail end.
Yeah. But it is hard to think up front. Like, you just want to, when we bought the house, I'm like, oh, we'll paint it, get new furniture, and we're done. Not the case.
Right. Well, I mean, I've done its numbers, and its renovations. We all know the price can always be much more than you think it is.
Sure.
But I try and be very conservative, and about imagining it's going to cost more than we think it is. I mean, I think we'll make back the money that we invest in the house in a couple of years.
Yeah, we should.
With the extra amount we can charge per night.
Right. Exactly. Hopefully.
So we will see. So that's something that we will be updating people on. As soon as we get back on October 20th, we have plans. It's with our guys to start. So we'll see. These future podcasts, you might hear some very stressed out people here.
Yeah.
Talking about getting it done. So just some random things. As Ryan is always checking out its properties in our county, and have you been noticing that places are selling very quickly and for much more than we ever thought they would pay for?
Yeah, I'm on Redfin all the time just because that's fun for me, and I'm just always looking at what's being sold, how much is being sold, how much under asking price, over asking price stuff is being sold for, and it feels like even mediocre homes in our area are being bought up quickly.
Right. I mean,
for good prices.
Under a month, and sometimes even it's within 2 weeks, and much more than we thought they were. And we even know some of them are actual flips because we...
Right. I recognize them.
Because we had seen them when they were crappy houses and got bought cheap, and then 6 months later being flipped. And really, I feel too, just like when we're in hotels and just watching television, HD TV and stuff. I mean,
all about flipping.
I feel like there's so many shows on flipping. It just feels like the market's getting hot.
Right. Right. I think
overly hot.
I don't know if it's overly hot or if it's just bouncing back from, the recession. Right. Like it's taken this long for banks and people and also, this is the time when baby boomers are retiring and downsizing. So, houses are being sold. I mean, houses are always being bought and sold, but the crash really messed that up bad. So I just feel like in our little tiny area, stuff is like starting to come back. Right. Like I'm seeing... better quality of houses. I mean, they're not great, but you're like, okay, it's not like...
But I feel like people are spending too much. Like, it doesn't feel... When I say hot, it feels like it's not...
It's like you spent that much for that house?
It doesn't seem like a sustainable price.
Yeah.
I mean, if you hang out on Bigger Pockets, it's like this... like a website about people that flip houses.
No, it's not just flipping houses. It's real estate investors. So all different kinds of real estate investors.
And that's at Bigger Pockets.
BiggerPockets.com.
Gotcha.
So, there are people who flip houses. There are people who do long-term rentals. There are people who own 100 apartment duplexes. There are people who do, whatever. Airbnb, short-term rentals. There's a short-term rental section. So I'm interested in that. Obviously, I'm interested in real estate. So,
but I mean, it's amazing when you tell me and if you send me links, like people have flipped like 50 houses in 2 years. I mean, it just seems like a thing,
Right.
So I don't know.
And if you have your numbers right, and your crew right, and that's something that people are doing if it's interesting to them. And there's that show that we talk about, Flip or Flop. That is their professional job. That's what they do.
Where it's just like constantly flipping.
I mean, they're working on like a handful of houses at the same time, you know.
And I guess it just makes me feel lucky that we got the 2 properties we did when the market was still low.
Yeah.
And I feel like now's the time to maybe like
hang back.
Just kind of hang back and like get our places going and save its money, because, you know, I just don't know these days if like that rise and crash is going to happen in shorter periods of time.
I don't know, you know, but what I read on Bigger Pockets, and I love it, they have great forums, they have great podcasts, I really love that site. I've learned so much there. Is that they are like, it's always up and down. Like, there will always be a cycle. There will always be, like, if you look at the historical data.
Sure.
You know, so, you know, even if things get high, the market corrects itself.
Right. But I mean, I'm not saying I wonder if it will ever crash. I mean, of course it will. My thing is when it does.
Right.
And you don't want to get caught.
You want to buy when it's crashing.
Right. And you don't want to, you know, buy in too high. And, you know, so
now, I will say
that's what I'm saying.
The River House, I feel like the market was starting to bump up. I mean, we bought it for $120. And I'm like, did we pay too much for that? But you know, thinking back, I'm like, no.
Yep.
I think that was the right price for what it is. So
a couple of things I noticed on Airbnb is they have an estimated its rental price. I guess I'm going to link to it on the blog. They have like a link on their website, and I guess it's for when people who are interested in possibly becoming hosts. You can put in your zip code or at your town, and it will tell you. And it you say like I have 2 bedrooms, 3 bedrooms, whatever, and it will spit out a price.
So basically, it's like, should I become a host?
Right, or if I did become a host, how much do you think I would make?
That's cool. That's so smart of them.
I'm gonna actually. So if I say, you know, our town, and I say, you know, we can handle 6 guests.
Yeah.
You know, it says our weekly average would be about $1,200, and you know what?
That's right.
That's about right.
That sounds right.
I mean, we're a little bit higher, but you know.
Yeah, it really depends on, you know, the quality of your space.
Yeah.
But that's cool. That's smart, because then, you know, a lot of people do have that question, I feel like, where they're like, should I do it?
But the interesting thing is, and, you know, I don't blame them for doing this. I guess it would be obvious for its marketing sake. The price that they give you of how much you could earn is at the high end.
The high end, yeah.
Because when you go to the other side where you look at your calendar and they say these are your price tips,
suggested prices.
Like if you price it at this, you know, cheap, you'll get booked all the time. Their prices are so low, you would never make the kind of
you
money
wouldn't make $1,200 a week.
Yeah, so
exactly.
I feel like they're, you know, on one end they're saying you could make this much, but we really want you to, you know, book really low.
They're like, you could make this much if you ignore our pricing suggestions.
So if you want to be a host, and this is kind of new to you, definitely do your own research and don't follow Airbnb's price tips, because I feel like you know, I feel like you're gonna find a better price than.
Well, also, I mean, it really depends on your area, your competition. If you're in New York City, you might want to follow their price tips, you know. But we're, you know, not there. Yeah.
The other thing is, I saw this a couple days ago that there's this company called Cabbage.
Cabbage with a K.
With a K. Where I guess they have a partnership with Airbnb where you can borrow up to $5,000. Actually, they don't say borrow. They'll give you $5,000 that then you can spend on at your house or to renovate, or it's just cash. I guess you could go on its vacation, and then you pay it back over time from profits from Airbnb.
Well, you said they don't say borrow, but you are borrowing.
Well, I guess when you talk to them, they say it's not a loan. Like, it's money and I guess it's a legal thing to get her out of some kind of elation. So because they don't charge you interest, what they charge you is a fee.
Oh, they charge you a fee, a flat fee.
So it's a set fee based on how much you want them to take out of your Airbnb profits every month until it's sold off. So if you're willing to say take 30% of my profits until it's paid off, your fee will be smaller than if you say take only 10%, then your fee is going to be much bigger because it's going to take longer to pay off. But
yeah, that's a loan.
Yeah.
But yeah.
I mean, right. But so anyway, that's there. I'm sure you have seen that on your, dashboard. Airbnb also announced that they had that big, like an anti-discrimination policy. That probably came out a couple of weeks ago.
Yeah. Because
Airbnb was getting in trouble because I think it was some researchers did a study and they noticed that if, someone who isn't white tried to rent on Airbnb, they would get turned down much more often than a person who either had a white face in their photo or a white name.
Right.
So, that's...
Oh, wow.
That's bad news. So, I mean, the government was getting involved, and so they kind of proactively did this whole policy, although it's more like a lot of just kind of, I guess, good talk. Like, it's like they're trying to let everyone know not to be racist,
Yeah.
But, yeah, that sucks if that's true, if people are, being...
See, I didn't realize the anti-discrimination policy that came out was based on something that happened. Like, I thought, something must have happened, but I didn't hear anything, but now you said that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because I was like, what is this email?
It was some school did a study where they would try and book the same exact place, and one time they would have a person's name that didn't seem obviously white, or it'd use a photo that it wasn't white, and then they would try and book the same place with someone that looks just like white and all that, and the white person would get it much more often, and the person that it wasn't white, they would get a message back like, oh, it's actually booked, or you can't book it, like the. Not every time, but upper percentage.
That's crazy.
You just wish that didn't happen. So, I don't know. That's just what that's
interesting.
There. Yep. And then last thing, and then we'll be done. I really loved in Airbnb how you can save a message.
Like a boilerplate message.
I don't know if I've talked about this before, but I really love it, especially now that we're traveling.
Yeah.
Not only on the computer, but people told me you can also do it on the phone.
Okay.
It wasn't so easy, like it wasn't so obvious to figure out how I could do it on the phone, but I've done it now, and it's
You did figure it out.
Because there's like 6 or 7 things I tell everyone all the time. Like, when are you coming? These are the amenities. Here's how to find the place.
Here's the door code if we're away.
Kind of like how we came here. The guy didn't have like a set answer of like, how do I get into the apartment? I have that for our place.
Yeah.
This is how you find our place. This is our address. This is how you get into the place.
Right.
And it really saves a lot of time. And that's one thing I wish other like VRBO
had that.
I don't think they have it,
but again, their site is so clunky that you're like, if they did have it, I can't find it.
So it's good on you, Airbnb.
Yeah, that's great. Okay, that's it for the podcast. You can check out our blog at shampooandbooze.com for the links we discuss and to join the conversation. You can also leave a question or a comment on our voicemail line, which is 540-407-8486. We would love to hear from you.
And basically, we would just love to hear if anyone has any experience about things we talked about or things that maybe people might find interesting. It kind of, I think people would find it interesting.
We love to hear from people. Yeah. We post an episode every Monday morning. You can subscribe to us through iTunes or YouTube so you always get the latest episode. You can also listen to our other podcast where we talk about how we sell stuff that we scavenge to fund our renovations and our rental businesses at scavengerlife.com. Bye.
See ya.